It's an interesting time for business. Tariff and trade policies are dynamic, supply chains are squeezed, and cash flow, it's tighter than ever. If your business can't adapt in real time, you are in a little bit of hurt. So how do you get full visibility and adapt in real time? Over 42,000 businesses trust NetSuite by Oracle, your AI-powered business management suite. It brings accounting, financial management, inventory, and HR all under one roof. NetSuite is the #1 cloud ERP for a reason. It's your single source of truth, giving you the data and control you need to move quickly. Real-time forecasting helps you move into the future with confidence, and with AI built in, you can automate the busy work and focus on strategy. NetSuite helps you see what's stuck, what it's costing you, and how to pivot fast. If I were running a business with a lot of moving parts, I'd use NetSuite for full control over everything. Tame the chaos with NetSuite. If your revenues are at least in the 7 figures, download the free ebook, Navigating Global Trade, 3 Insights for Leaders at netsuite.com/SPI. That's netsuite.com/SPI. Congrats, your business is doing great. All your hard work is paying off, but you need help like now, and you have to hire fast. How can you hire amazing candidates quickly? Easy, just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. Indeed sponsored jobs help you stand out and hire fast. And with sponsored jobs, your posts jump to the top of the page for your relevant candidates so you can reach people you want faster. And it makes a huge difference. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. One of the things I love most about Indeed is that it has one of the largest databases of job seekers, giving employers access to a wide range of candidates. And with job alerts, I get notified when new candidates apply. And with Indeed sponsored jobs, there's no monthly subscriptions, no long-term contracts, and you only pay for results. So how fast? Well, in the minute that I've been talking to you, 23 hires were made on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. There's no need to wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/smartpassive. Just go to Indeed.com/smartpassive right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/smartpassive. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed, is all you need. The perfect product launch. It's the goal for every brand marketer. High heat, fast sellout, and fans posting recipes like trophies. What do Sydney Sweeney's soap drop, Taylor Swift's tickets, and your next launch have in common? Well, they're not bought, they're bragged about. Fanfare turns your drop into a moment. Fanfare cues real fans, blocks bots, and builds launch experiences worth screenshotting. Want hype without the heartbreak? Get Fanfare's 5-step hype drop playbook with our proven success formula and make your next launch unforgettable at fanfare.io/playbook. Again, fanfare.io/playbook. Really quick before we get started here, this month I'm helping to support John Lee Dumas's brand new journal, the Mastery Journal, which you can find at themasteryjournal.com/Pat. This is here to help you master productivity, focus, and discipline in just 100 days. It's off to the races, an amazing start in Kickstarter. You got to check it out. Again, that link is themasteryjournal.com/Pat. This is the Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn, session number 253. Let's talk.
Welcome to the Smart Passive Income Podcast, where it's all about working hard now so you can sit back and reap the benefits later. And now your host. He'd have a unibrow if it wasn't for his pair of tweezers, Pat Flynn.
Still using a copy-paste website? Break the template trap with Framer. Whether you're overwhelmed by traditional site builders or frustrated with cookie-cutter designs, Framer gives you the freedom to create a site that's professional, polished, and uniquely yours. Framer is the design-first, no-code website builder that lets anyone ship a production-ready site in minutes. It's free to start, allowing you to browse hundreds of pixel-perfect templates or even design something on your own on a totally blank canvas. Add bold animations like appear effects, text effects, parallax scrolling, scroll animations, looping animations, and much more in seconds. The built-in AI handles the heavy lifting, generating starter layouts, and can even translate your entire site to any language. Ready to build a site that looks hand-coded without hiring a developer? Launch your site for free at framer.com and use code SPI to get your first month of pro on the house. That's framer.com, promo code SPI. Framer.com, promo code SPI. Rules and restrictions may apply. Running a business means legal questions are inevitable. Is this contract or agreement solid? What can I do if a client won't pay me? Am I set up properly for taxes? Well, rather than trying to navigate all of this on your own or searching endlessly online, imagine having a law firm on your side without the high hourly rates. That's exactly what Legal Shield's small business plans offer. With Legal Shield, entrepreneurs get access to real legal support, contract reviews, collection letters, guidance on business formation, and even help handling IRS audits. Members can book consultations, upload documents through the app, and work with a provider law firm that understands small business laws in your state. You also get proactive help on tax and trademark questions so you can stay ahead of legal risks. And if a client delays payment, Legal Shield can send professional collection letters to help you recover what you're owed, all for a fraction of what traditional attorneys charge. Go to LegalShield.com/SPI or call 833-570-9980 to learn more and get big business legal support without a big business budget. That's LegalShield.com/SPI. What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me today. This is session 253 of the Smart Passive Income Podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest, somebody who I've gotten to know very well recently, and she's amazing, one of the smartest people I've gotten to know this past year. But before we get to that, I have to tell you about this thing that's in my hands right now. I'm holding it, and it's gorgeous, and it's called the Mastery Journal from John Lee Dumas. You may have heard of his Freedom Journal, which was an amazingly successful Kickstarter campaign. Well, he's running his Kickstarter campaign for the next journal, the next step, which is going to help you master productivity and focus in the next 100 days. You can check it out at themasteryjournal.com/Pat. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. For now, let's talk about Selena Soo. You may have heard this name before. She's become well known in the online business and entrepreneurship space. She is a coach of coaches. She helps coach people in the 7-figure range. And she's with us on the show today to talk about not just the importance of building relationships and finding influencers and connecting with those people. I think we all know that that is important and that can absolutely help us grow and expand our business. But more into the how do we do that? You may have heard people say, oh, well, just go out, reach out to them, start that relationship, provide value to them. Well, how do you do that? Well, we dive deep into what those answers are. And during the second half of the show, we actually do something fun where I come at her with a particular angle, sharing a hypothetical product that I'm going to come out with. And she shares how she would actually get that thing noticed and out there and into the hands of those prospects and customers. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So without further ado, here is Selena Soo, that's S-O-O, from selenasoo.com. Here we go. What's up, everybody? I'm so happy to welcome Selena Soo here on the SPI podcast today. Selena, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Pat.
You know, I know a lot of people are looking forward to this. We are in a Facebook group together, and a big shout out to all the other group members there. I think you all know who you are, and I told them that we were doing this together, and everybody was so excited for it. And I can't wait because you guys, Selena has some amazing business knowledge to share. She's a publicity strategist for experts and authors and coaches. She has a ton of experience. And so, Selena, when somebody asks you, what do you do? What is it that you tell them exactly?
Sure. Yeah. So I tell them that I'm a business and publicity strategist for experts, authors, and coaches. And basically, I help them get known, get more clients, and ultimately help them reach millions of people.
Well, I think this is something I think everybody who's listening wants more of. And so in terms of where to start, I mean, how, in terms of, I mean, there's a billion and one ways to get more traffic and get more exposure to you. What is the most important way one can begin to grow their business and get exposure out there?
Sure. I mean, I think that number one thing really comes down to developing relationships. So I can share a bit about my personal story, and I can share more about what my clients and students have done.
Please.
But yeah, so when I first started out, obviously I did not know anyone, but for years I had been admiring people like Marie Forleo, Danielle Laporte, and Ramit Sethi from afar. And when I was in my mid-20s, I, had a quarter life crisis. I wasn't really happy. And so I was, going to these women's life coaching circles and, looking to learn from all these different experts. And I just really felt like it was people like them that were truly changing the world. People who were helping people think differently about their purpose, their careers, starting a business, how to have better relationships and health. And so I was always just really drawn to those personalities. And for me, when I meet someone who's amazing, I want to tell everybody about it. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of became this unofficial publicist. And, over time, I actually had a chance to meet, many of the people that I admired. So I live in New York City, and this is a pretty crazy story. But one day I was walking home from a summer internship. I was in grad school at the time, and I saw Ramit Sethi on the street. And I went up and introduced myself to him, and he was kind of shocked because he wasn't expecting it. I was like, walking home, and he was right outside his apartment, and just letting his parents into a car. And I don't really look like the typical IWT reader. I'm a female. That's probably one of the main things. I just knew so much about his book and his courses, and we had so much to talk about. And then I started going to these meetups that he invited me to, and I met Derek Halpern there. And through Ramit and other people, I got connected to Marie Forleo. There's lots of different stories around different relationships that I built prior to starting my business. But a lot of it really just came down to me, being willing to approach the people that I admire, find ways to add value to them. And then when I did launch my business, on day one, my website had testimonials from Marie Forleo and from Danielle Laporte. And I had Ramit Sethi telling people about my work and magazine editors endorsing my work. And so I think there's a couple of things there. One is what I talked about, being someone who's a giver and adding value to people will naturally want to help you. And when I, asked people like Marie if they would be willing to offer a testimonial for my website, she was actually so happy that I had asked her because she wanted to give back. So that's one thing. And then, the second thing is not waiting for things to happen. Like, don't wait for opportunities, but actually create opportunities. So I remember people saying to me, wow, that's amazing that you've got a testimonial from Marie. I can't believe it. And some of these people were like in her high end, $20,000 to $30,000 mastermind. And they probably could have asked her for one too, but they just didn't think to ask. Mm-hmm. And the way that I built relationships with all these people is I proactively identified ways to give back and added value. And so when you create all this goodwill and you showcase, I guess, your expertise by helping people, then you develop a reputation. So for me, that's definitely been the biggest thing in getting visibility.
Yeah, I love that. One of the most popular blog posts on SPI is about relationship building and that as a way to actually get more exposure. And it's popular for a reason because this stuff actually works. And I would agree with you. The lowest, I don't want to say lowest hanging fruit because it does take a lot of work. It's not just like you can say to yourself, oh, I'm going to build relationships and then it all of a sudden happens. There's some work involved, obviously, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But in terms of to get the most bang for your buck, and it's also fun to just get to meet new people and kind of get vibes from others and help grow your companies and businesses together. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the people that I've been willing to meet and who have met with me and we've talked and built relationships over time. And you've mentioned a few things there. The first part is you said you have to be willing to approach people. And I think that goes along with you need to want it and you need to go and get it. And I think a lot of people out there know that they have to go and build these relationships. But when it actually comes time to doing that, the fear starts to come in, that resistance. Oh, who am I to go up to so-and-so? How, like, they're just going to think I'm a grunt. Like, I have nothing of value to add. Like, how would you respond to somebody who says, Selena, like, I'm too afraid to go up to somebody?
Right. I mean, I absolutely get where people are coming from. I mean, I myself am actually a really big introvert, and I do get so excited about the people that I admire that I can understand, like, the nerves. But I think there's a couple of things to keep in mind. So one of my favorite sayings, and it's a mindset thing, but the moment you put someone on a pedestal is the moment they start looking down on you. And so it's not to say that we can't appreciate and admire people, but if we're approaching someone in our head, we've got this internal dialogue, like, who am I to talk to them? I'm nothing. I've accomplished, nothing in my career. I'm just a beginner. What could I have to offer? They're a much bigger deal. I don't want to bother them. Like, we're bringing that kind of negative energy and unbalanced dynamic into the relationship. I mean, the thing is, we're all equal as people. And I know for, me and many others, like, we love talking to people who appreciate our work. It's something that is so enjoyable to do. In fact, when I'm at an event and someone comes up to me and will say, I'm so excited to come to this event when I saw that you were a speaker, or I'm on your newsletter list. I love that recent email that you shared about XYZ. Like, all of a sudden, they're the most interesting person in the room to me. And, the truth is that we care about people who care about us. And so part of it is, understanding that, the people that we admire do want to hear from us. But we have to, just approach them and show them that we appreciate them. So those are just some of the first steps. But I think that when you've got that mindset, it really helps. And then another thing is, I also tell myself, like, what is the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
I mean, there have been situations where I've been in the room with very influential people. I know that if I don't say hi now, I might never see them again. And so let me just go up to them and just say hi and talk to them for like a minute or two. And yeah, I mean, really, what's the worst that could happen?
Totally. I mean, one thing I tell myself when I'm in a situation, I'm an introvert just like you, and some people might be surprised by that. But when I go to an event and I see somebody that I really want to speak to, I start to get clammy hands, and I start to freak myself out. And one thing I've taught myself over time is not only to ask myself what's the worst that can happen, because when you truly think about that answer, I mean, it's not always as bad as you think. I mean, maybe they just say no, or they don't have time right now, and that's it. But the other thing that I share with myself, and that I love to share with all of you, and I think I've shared this before, is this thing called the 3-second rule, which is you don't give yourself more than 3 seconds to psych yourself out. So if you see somebody and you want to meet them, you don't give yourself less than 3 seconds to go up and talk to them. Now, if they're across the room, you don't want to sprint to get in there like in 3 seconds. You would probably freak them out. But just don't give yourself more than 3 seconds to question yourself. You just go and do it. And it's funny because I remember when I was first starting out and I was so intimidated by all these amazing entrepreneurs like you were. I put myself in those situations, and then I started talking to these people, and they were all super friendly and cool, and they were just like me. They're we like you said, put them on a pedestal, and we think they're rock stars, and they are, but they're also human beings just like us too.
Absolutely.
So, okay, from there, you had mentioned, okay, being willing to approach people, getting over that fear, 3-second rule, what's the worst that can happen, all that stuff. Now, when you start to build these relationships, you had mentioned the importance of adding value, and I think you said that 4 or 5 times. And I think that begs the follow-up question, which is, well, how do we do that? I think that is a phrase that a lot of people say, and I think we all know now, but how do you, Selena, add value? Like, how did you do that when you met Marie and Ramit? I think a lot of people would love to know the secrets to that.
Sure. So the first thing I'll say is when I think of someone who's influential, I think of them as a train. Right? A busy person is like a train. They're on a track and they're headed to a particular destination. Mm-hmm. And the train may stop for a couple of moments to open up its doors and let new people on, but then it's, going to its intended destination. And so with every person that you're trying to connect with, we're all busy, and we can only really oftentimes develop deep relationships with people that can help us get to our destination in some way or another. So I always, think about, and I guess it's become very natural to me. It's very clear to me, like how I can help people the most. And the thing is that most of us have the same goals. We might think like, oh, I'm not a mind reader. How could I know what Ramit Sethi wants or Marie Forleo wants or Pat Flynn wants? But we all want the same things. And so some of the things that people want are they want to, get more publicity and create buzz around their business. They want people to be talking about their business. People want to get one-on-one clients or fill up their group programs. Certain people want to get book deals, or when they've got their book deal, they want everyone to know about their book. And so, the list goes on, but there are certain things that are pretty common, especially if you're looking to approach a particular type of entrepreneur. So I always keep that in mind. And for me, it's like really fun to help people, and especially in a big way, because I think to stand out, you can't do what everyone else is doing. Otherwise, you'll become forgettable. But I think about a time when Ramit sent me an email while I was in business school, and he was redesigning his website. And he was like, I've got these 2 different homepages, was wondering if you'd have like, a minute to take a look and let me know what you think, if you're too busy, no worries. And I remember being in actually my entrepreneurship class, and I was so excited. I was like, Ramit Sethi wants my advice. And I left the classroom and I went to the library, and I kind of gathered this focus group of, students at NYU. And we were going over the pages that he had sent and, coming up with feedback on the messaging and the copy and the positioning and everything. And I wrote to him later that night, and I sent him like pages of really detailed, like super in-depth feedback after talking to over a dozen people. And he was blown away. And he forwarded it to his team. And, even though Ramit has never been an official client of mine, I've helped him in a number of different ways. And so he's able to get a sense of the quality of the work, how seriously I take these things, how much I really want to help people. And so that's why he can, he's able to recommend me. And so these are the kinds of things I do all the time. Another thing that I did recently, which you know about because you were a part of it, is Marie Forleo got an award from a nonprofit called She's the First. And I just thought it would be so nice to get a full page ad in the event program to congratulate Marie for the contribution she's made to our industry and how she's really someone who is impacting millions and changing how people are doing business. And so I reached out to some close friends of hers and people that she admires to see if they'd want to be a part of the ad. And I also emailed my whole email list to give them a chance to participate. And we put together this really beautiful ad for her. And she was so surprised and so moved by
Oh,
it.
yay.
And yeah, and those things are so fun. And thank you, Pat, for, wanting to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing you did for me was you knew or heard through the grapevine somehow that I was traveling to New York for something. And you reached out to me and we were able to set up a dinner that you had put together with a number of other amazing entrepreneurs, some that I knew, some that I didn't know. And it was just a fantastic thing that I'm always going to remember. And is probably part of the reason why you're here on the show right now, because I wanted to give back to you for what you did. So this stuff does absolutely work. And so I'm curious, what are some things that one shouldn't do when it comes to, reaching out to their influencers and people they want to connect with?
Yeah. So, I think one of the biggest mistakes is that people don't put themselves in the other person's shoes. That's kind of like a running theme. And then within that, there's mistakes people make. So, even going back to the example of, you being in town, like I saw in your newsletter that you mentioned, I'm going to be in town to speak at a conference and I might have time to meet up with some readers. And I just thought, like, that's great. So exciting that you're in town. And that you do want to meet up with people, but it would probably be harder for you to meet up with people one-on-one. What if I create a party with tons of cool people that you would want to connect with, including your existing friends? So I kind of put myself in your shoes versus being like, hey, Pat, meet with me, and personally, I prefer to kind of make it an opportunity that is like a massive win-win. So I think that when, a couple of things, like when people are reaching out to influencers they admire, they've been following them for a while, they have so much to say, and they kind of feel like this is their one shot. And so it's not uncommon for people to send very long emails, emails that maybe are, 13 paragraphs long, that have got multiple questions and ideas in them. I remember one time I was sending an email to my list and I don't even know if I was asking for a response, but a lot of people did respond. And one person sent me an email that was super long like that. And I was in the middle of a launch and I, had like a couple hundred of people who wrote to me. And I really do try my best, even at this stage, to write back to every single person personally. It's really, coming from me, every email is different. But, I was not obviously able to match like the 13 paragraph email. My email was quite short. And the person wrote back and was really angry at me. She was like, clearly you didn't even read my email. And I just kind of explained, I did read your email and I appreciate it. But, I had to explain that. So I think that a lot of people in their communications are like writing things that are way too long, or sometimes they're emailing people and they're super vague. So I've had situations where someone would write to me like we're best friends and I'm like, wait a minute. And I type in their name and I see that they've sent me several emails, but their emails were like one word things like great webinar or love it. And it's so nice to hear that. But at the same time, they're not making themselves remembered by us. So that's another key thing to really keep in mind.
Another thing that I feel like is a big mistake is that you give off this feeling that you're only building the relationship to get something back in return. And this is a hard thing to balance, right? Because I think a lot of influencers just know that people are going to approach them because they want something else back in return. How do you advise people to build these relationships, knowing that, hopefully one day something will come back in return, but you don't give off that feeling and you actually do in an honestly and authentic, genuine way actually help people and provide value?
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you said about like, hopefully one day, because that's really the way that we should be thinking about things. It's like, yes, when we're connecting with people that we admire, we're connecting with them because there are these natural synergies. There's potential collaboration opportunities or ways to support each other. At the same time, these people are being asked to do things all the time. And you don't want to be that person who is just asking. You want to be the person that is giving and, a valuable person that actually they would want to be able to help you. So I think it's really important to consider the kind of request you're asking for. So if you're asking someone for a testimonial, put yourself in their shoes. Like, does it make sense for them to give you a testimonial? I'm sure everyone would like a testimonial from someone super famous. But if they don't know you that well, they just had a couple of interactions, or you just happen to be a student, it's going to be hard for them to endorse your work, because then theoretically every single student in their program could ask for a testimonial. But if you're someone who's been a service provider or a coach to them, or you've helped them with a significant project, that may be appropriate. So it's not even like, you have to first kind of like think about, is it even appropriate for me to ask for this particular thing at this time? And then another thing that is really key is just the language you use, because I think the number one thing that all of us care about is that we don't want to burn the relationship by making the other person feel uncomfortable. And so to make the person feel more comfortable, you want to come off, is that you're not overly attached to the outcome, which you shouldn't be, So maybe it's something like, hey, I just want to run this idea by you. And then kind of run the idea and see if they're interested or not, versus like, can you do this?
Yeah.
Or, what do you think about this? I find that even those small tweaks make a really big difference.
Oh, I like that. That's great advice. Let's shift gears here. I'd love to sort of present a few scenarios to you and have you respond with how I might be able to, I being sort of the hypothetical situation,
Okay.
like be able to get the best publicity, because that's sort of your specialty is, how to get more publicity. And we talked about the importance of relationships. I think no matter what you're doing, you should try and build relationships over time. But I think depending on what your goals are, you're going to have different ways and methods to get even more publicity. So let's say, scenario number one, and this is more of a selfish ask because I am coming out with another book in the near future. But I also know people in my audience, most of them are writing books or have written books or have a book in them. So I'm writing a book. How do I get the most publicity to get the most readers for my book?
Sure. Okay. So when people are looking for book PR, there's like a couple of things I think about. So, when you're selling a book, usually a book's about $20. That is something that would be interesting to a mass audience. There's a lot of people I find that, are selling high-end programs like a $5,000 or $10,000 program. They're thinking that being in a magazine or on TV would move the needle. And, it's a great credibility marker, but those are not your ideal buyers. People in magazines are looking to buy $20 books and things like that. So if you're looking to write a book, then I do think mainstream media is important and can really help you with a big book advance. And it also gets your audience really excited. Like, oh my gosh, Pat was featured in Entrepreneur Magazine and Forbes and so forth. So those are the things I would think about for books. And then the other thing I would think about is, of course, where are your ideal clients hanging out? And I seriously think that podcasts are one of the very best forms of publicity, because people who listen to podcasts, like, they're serious. They're not just like skimming through a magazine casually at the dentist's office. They are choosing to invest, 30 minutes or an hour of their time to really improving themselves and learning new ideas.
Totally.
And so if your book is like on a business topic or self-help topic, then podcast listeners are going to love it. And also the cool thing about podcasts is these are not media companies with lots of very strict rules. With certain media companies like magazines, you can't be too promotional. Otherwise, it's like, you should be buying an advertisement. Whereas podcasters are, really open, oftentimes to finding ways to support these entrepreneurs on their show and give shout outs to their book, send people to opt-in pages to get more information. And I know that, podcasts do drive a lot of sales. So those are the things that I would think about in your situation.
Very nice. Okay, so podcasting, getting on other people's shows, obviously the relationships that you build will help for that. But in terms of, let's say I wanted to get in magazines and mainstream media, what's like a tip or two you have for me to be able to talk about my book on TV or in a magazine?
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I recommend people do is sign up for a newsletter service called HARO, which stands for Help a Reporter Out. And so, every day you'll get emails based on stories that reporters are currently working on, and they're looking for experts and sources. So if you can insert yourself, again, into this influencer's goal, that's one way to kind of get into a story. And then, of course, like sometimes, you're going to want to have a story just about your book. And so in that case, you would pitch someone directly. And again, if you've spent time before your book launch to build some relationships, that can really help. Maybe you've been featured in a particular outlet before, and now you're coming back and you're saying, hey, I've got an update. I've got this book coming out. That can really help. But other times we don't have the relationship, and that's okay.
Hmm.
I find that it can be helpful to go through these magazines, media kits, and they're online. And they're online because advertisers want to see, what's the theme of each issue and how can we plug ourselves in. So you can just literally type in the words, let's say, Entrepreneur Magazine Media Kit, and that will come up. Sometimes they ask for your name and email, which is fine. They're not going to contact you. It's just like to collect advertiser information, and you'll see what their themes are for every single issue. So there was, I remember looking at Oprah magazine, and there was one issue that was on technology and money. And I remember thinking, oh, that's perfect. Like Ramit Sethi has an app called Negotiate It. And so then I pitched at that point, and it was received because it was timely and it showed that I was paying attention. It tied back into something. So you might want to like take a look at the media kits, and then also think about, does your book tie into something timely that is happening in the world right now, or something that is seasonal? So if you've got a relationship book, a great time to launch that would be Valentine's Day, because that's already the existing conversation that you can plug yourself into. Or if it's entrepreneurship, there are like months like, entrepreneurship month or a certain kind of entrepreneurship day.
Hmm.
So yeah, thinking of ways to tie it into the existing media conversation.
Yeah, and you have to realize that these journalists and people in TV and magazines, they need content, because their stuff has to come out. And if you can get in front of them and show them that you're the thing that should be featured, then absolutely. I mean, when I started thinking about it that way, it really opened up my eyes for all the opportunities that are actually out there, and it becomes this more, you're living in an abundant world where there's all these opportunities. So that's great. Okay, so we took care of the book route. Let's say, for example, now scenario number 2. That I am creating an online course, and I would love to get as many students in there as possible for my upcoming launch.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, I think if someone has an online course, their ideal targets are students who take other online courses. And so you want to think about, how can you be a star student in programs that you're already involved in, right? Like that's something that is very powerful. And even though maybe, there are not millions of people in the online course, there may be a couple hundred or a couple thousand that are super targeted. And so, I know that for every course creator, even if they've been successful in the thing they're teaching, they need to show it's not just me. There's other people too. And so they are literally searching for students to publicize and promote and to say, oh, look at my successful student that went from, A to Z and got this kind of result. And so if you're a successful student, sometimes, your teachers, they may promote you in Facebook ads. They may highlight you in the groups you're in. They may send newsletters about you. You may be incorporated into launches. And of course, like their launch might not tie in with, when you're launching something, but that's just something to really keep in mind. And again, like these people who are teachers and mentors, they're people. They've got audiences and they've got lists. They might even be willing to promote and become an affiliate. So I'd say that's something really to consider.
Mm-hmm.
And also they may have podcasts or guest post opportunities. So like really focus on, where the students are hanging out, which is around other course creators. And again, I think that podcasts are really good because, investing in a course is a big decision. I mean, courses are at different price points. For me, most of my courses are actually the $3,000 price point. So that's, above kind of the industry average. It's a big deal for people. And I don't expect to just send out a link and say, buy the course. Maybe if it was something else, that was like $5, it's like a no-brainer thing. But this is something that really people have to consider. And so for me, like I love doing podcast interviews. I don't have my own podcast, but I go on other people's podcasts and I use that as content for my audience. So what I do, and also when you're selling courses, it's not just like the cart is open. The selling really needs to begin and the relationship needs to begin the moment that people join your email list, right? Because that's when they're most excited about you. And so what I do with my nurture sequence is I put my best pieces of, media and publicity in my nurture sequence. So I know that everybody gets it. So if I did an interview that I know really moved people and helped people and really showcased my expertise, I'll make sure that's in the nurture sequence. And so right away, they're like, oh, wow, this sounds amazing. I want to learn from this particular person. So leveraging key, guest post pieces and podcasts, putting that in nurture sequences. You can also put that in a pre-launch sequence. Because when you're about to launch something, you should be more active and engaged with your audience, and they should be hearing more about you, thinking about you. And then for me, when the cart was about to close for one of my programs, I said, I know it's a big decision to join the program, and I want you to make the most informed one. And for some of you, you're just learning about me, for the first time. People sometimes will join your list just a couple weeks before the launch begins. And so I would say, like, here are 2 of my best podcast interviews for you to get to know me better, where I talk about the particular topic that we're covering in the course. And so, with webinars, obviously not everybody on the list is going to attend your webinar. A lot of people sign up and they don't show up, or maybe they try to listen to the recording and don't get around to it. So I love webinars, and a lot of my sales come from that, but I'm not capturing my full audience. But when I share podcast interviews and powerful guest posts that share content that is going to really help them and impress them, but also where they're like, oh, it's not just Selena who's saying she's the best. It's Andrew Warner who's interviewing her and saying, hey, this someone you need to pay attention to. It's Business Insider. It's John Lee Dumas. Like, that's really important. And I think, one thing I want to add to this is right now, a lot of people are focused on Facebook ads. And I think that Facebook ads are great, and that people, should consider putting, some time and attention towards them. But at the same time, it's different for you to kind of blast out and, to the world, like, I'm the best, opt in for my gift. And it's different when you've got these third-party endorsements from podcast hosts and big media brands that have spent decades building prestige and credibility, and you incorporate that into your launches.
Yeah, I love that. I think it was Mark Zuckerberg, actually, obviously owner of Facebook, founder of Facebook, who said there's no better recommendation than one that comes from a trusted friend, or one that comes with a friend. And so if you can find the friends that would then endorse you, it's going to mean much more, and it's going to be almost like free marketing, if you will, instead of having to pay for ads that may or may not convert. And I know ads are sexy and they're fun because you can get to a point where you're trading quarters for dollars and dollars for $5 and things like that. But I think you're right. Getting into the webinars and the other people's podcasts is great. I think the strategy you mentioned, where for people who don't buy off of your webinar and people who maybe don't even attend your webinar because life gets in the way, sending them to a podcast is great, because you're giving them still the ability to build that relationship with you, even when they're not there watching live, but they're listening to you and you're your voice, and they're getting to know you. And like you said, they're getting this third-party endorsement about you. And so that might help that person who's on the fence actually end up buying, which is great.
Yeah. The other thing I'll add is that, doing a podcast interview is a lot easier from a time and effort perspective than creating, like, say, a 3-part video series that you want to perfectly script, and you're, bringing in a videographer and choreographing the whole thing. It's just showing up and talking. And the thing with podcast interviews that are so great is, it's like people are listening into a conversation. It's, it's real, like they can really connect with someone. And, video series, they definitely have their place, but it's a different feeling. And so sometimes, these more casual conversations can be more effective. And then the last thing, I'll say about the, publicity piece, or one of the last things, is that, people are more likely to share on Facebook, wow, my mentor, my friend is in Business Insider. Oh my gosh, this person landed an interview on Smart Passive Income. Check it out. They're more likely to do that than be like, hey, check out this person's opt-in page, or hey, show up for their webinar. And so it's a really great way. It's like, you're getting publicity just by being featured. But, this is something that people in your audience will be excited to promote. And there are certain ways that you can encourage them to promote it as well, through your newsletter. And there's all sorts of things, but you can really leverage that publicity. So it's reaching so many more people.
Love that. I love that. Sweet. Well, let's move on to one more scenario, if I may. And that is, let's say I am an expert in something, and I want to share that expertise, not with a group, a large group in a course, kind of creating the online course and not being always as accessible. I want to be very accessible, but I also want to charge a lot of money for it, as one should if you're charging for accessibility. So this is more like
high-end coaching. So I'm now looking for not the person to spend, a couple $100 or, even $1,000 for a membership site or a course, but I want somebody to spend, thousands of dollars to work with me, to have me hold them accountable, to walk them through the steps of something. How do I find those people?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's say you have a $5,000 coaching package. One thing that I like to do is have people email their email lists if they have them, and if they don't, I have another option for them. But to ask them, who are your favorite experts that you follow in this particular area. And then you could also ask, what are your favorite blogs and podcasts in this particular area? And then you can also, survey and get more information about, the person who is submitting it. And then you can see all my audience is listening to this particular podcast. They're all reading this blog, or they all admire this particular person. Let me see where that expert is being featured, right? That leaves a lot of clues. The other thing is, if you don't have an email list, you can, post it on Facebook, or you can post it inside Facebook groups. But you also want to get, that input from the right people, because if you're an entrepreneur, who is selling online courses, let's say on webinars, you don't need to know that your friend from high school loves reading People magazine, so it might be for my, entrepreneur friends, or for my online course creators out there, and then, posing that question. And so rather than kind of scratching your head and figure out where should I be seen, just, ask your ideal people where they're already spending their time.
Yeah, I like that. And again, for everybody listening, we're not talking about how to sell more of your course. I think it's obvious that, or your coaching. It's obvious that if you have a list, you start with your list, right? Or if you have existing customers in your digital course, that you can go back to your customers and ask them to potentially spend more money with you to get even more access to you and higher level coaching. I think that's obvious. What we're talking about here is getting new people to realize that we have these things to offer. And I think that's really smart. So speaking to your people and asking, where else do you go for information, and being able to align sort of your audience with their audience, right?
Right. And then the other thing I would, add to that when you're looking for high-end clients is kind of the more, the busier and more kind of advanced in business, or, that person may be, the less time they have. And so, someone is less likely to listen to a 1-hour podcast interview, versus, skimming through a guest post, so if you're in Inc. and you're talking about your top tips on productivity, more people are likely to click that and spend kind of, a couple of minutes reading it versus listening to the full podcast interview. So I think it's good to have different types of media, because everyone has different preferences. But, if you were to do a guest post, you could also share the full guest post or a portion of it in your newsletter. And what I really like about guest posts is that you really have an opportunity to share your thought leadership ideas. You really have control over what you say. Whereas with other forms of media, let's say TV, you're on TV for a couple of minutes, and you might not be able to control what they decide the segment is going to be about. And so, I do find that for high-end clients, it's really good to, have some guest posts in key places. And I've had people say things like, when I read your article on Fast Company, and the reason why they read it is because I shared it with my newsletter list. Otherwise, they wouldn't have read it, So I make sure to put it in front of people. They're like, I read this thing in Fast Company. I read this thing on Business Insider, and it was a sign to me that I was meant to work with you. And so, people in your audience get really excited when they see that you are being recognized as this expert. And it really does make a very big difference.
Yeah. And I think, with the high-end clients, it's not going to be, that's a big commitment to spend that much money with you. And if somebody finds you for the first time, likely they're not going to come at you and say, oh, I read that one article, bam, here's all this money. It's going to take some time. And I think you had mentioned that you had a conversation with people first. And, I also know a lot of people who have gathered a lot of high-end clients through means like Snapchat, where they're having one-on-one conversations with people who who initially found them somewhere, who followed them on Snapchat or Instagram or wherever, and then they started chatting with each other through DMs and getting, you as the influencer sort of learning more about this person, understanding more, showing that you are accessible, showing that you care, even providing a few tips here and there, to a point where then when they see that you have this higher end thing to offer, they're going to feel like, oh yeah, I already got a small taste of what it was like already. Like, heck yeah, I'm going to spend that money, and I trust this person already. So those DMs and those messages between you and the potential client are really, really important.
Yeah, that is really huge. Another thing I'll add with high-end clients is they tend to hire based on referral. So, they don't want to, Google or even maybe ask a million people. Sometimes they will just ask a friend of theirs that's really connected, hey, who should I hire to design my website? Or even if they do post it on, like Facebook. If certain person's name keeps coming up again and again, that's going to mean a lot to them. And so part of it is also just making it known that you're an expert in a particular area. For some people, for many of us, like there's a lot that we know about. If we're an online business owner, as we grow our business, we know about team, we know about webinars, we know about publicity, we know about podcasts, and we know about 17 different topics. But if it's hard to be known for 17 different things. It's hard to be the go-to person. So for me, I want to be known as the person that helps people get more publicity and ultimately impact millions, and the person who helps others develop these high-level influential relationships that opens up doors to the opportunities of a lifetime. But for me, it's all about brand building and visibility and those high-level connections. There's a lot that I could talk about team. There's a ton that I could discuss around business model. I'm very thoughtful and strategic about how I go about my business. And I've had the chance to work with so many 7-figure entrepreneurs on their business. So I see what's happening, and there's a lot I can share, but that's not the thing that I choose to be known for. And it's on purpose.
Yeah, so you're kind of putting your stake in the ground and saying, hey, this is what I'm going to be the expert in. Even though I could be the expert in all these other things, nobody will trust me or nobody will hire me for something and spend a lot of money with me unless I were to actually say, hey, this is who I am and what I can offer.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Selena, we've been talking for about 40 minutes now, and I know your time is precious. And so I want to close up by asking you just one more question for everybody else out there listening who sees all this amazing success that you've had and you've helped other people have, who are kind of in the trenches right now. They're struggling. They are seeing small bits of success here and there, but it's not quite moving at the pace that they want to. How would you help those people? How would you coach those people out of that trench into, more rapid success and exposure for their brand and more clients?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I think the first thing is that if we want our businesses to up level, we have to invest in ourselves. And so very early on, I invested in a high-end coach. I joined a mastermind program, and that was really a game changer for me because that provided me with a network, and it also provided me with the information I needed because I had a lot of information gaps in the beginning. I think it's a really smart idea to invest in, online programs that have community, because as you're growing your business, like there are so many questions that come up every single day. And so when you've got that community, you can get feedback, in the moment from different people in the community. And also if the coach does Q&A calls or there's a coach that you've hired one-on-one, then you can get feedback from them too. Another thing that I think is really important is strategy. And I think that a lot of people struggle in their business because they simply don't have the right strategy. And strategy includes a lot of things, including it includes the offerings that you have. It includes how often you plan to launch them, what you want to be known for. And so sometimes when we have the wrong offerings or we decide to take a certain path, or we're doing 17 things at once, like we're not going to be successful. So sometimes it's actually less doing and taking more time to intentionally decide, okay, these are the few things I'm going to focus on and say yes to and go all in. And along the way, I'm going to get support from the communities I'm a part of and my mentors and colleagues and friends. So I know that for me, I've grown my business very intentionally, and I like to share it. There's a lot of things I don't do, and I like to share that because I don't want people to think that there is one particular formula for success. My website right now, I haven't updated it. It's really since the day I started the business. I now have like a kind of a like I did one kind of update with the landing page, and then they can scroll down and see the rest of the website. But the content is like from 4 or 5 years ago. It's not even fully up to date. I mean, it could be a million times better, but I don't spend my time there. I'm not on Instagram. I don't do Pinterest. I've never done a free challenge. I've never done a Facebook Live. I've never done, I'm not writing a book. And a lot of people say like, you've got to do this. You must do this. And it's not true. I mean, I think there's many paths to success. It's kind of like there's many ways to, go to Chinatown. You could take the bus. You could, take a helicopter. You could grab a ride with a friend. You could take the subway. So everyone's going to have their different path. I think it's really important to get clear on what are your natural strengths, and also what are your preferences and what feels good to you, and focus on that. So for me, I like writing newsletters to my list. I like doing podcast interviews and sharing that. That's the way that I choose to connect and engage with my audience. And there's lots of amazing things that, are great for many people. They're just not my, method, preferred method of getting the word out about my work. So I hope that, people feel relieved hearing that you don't have to do what everyone else is doing. I've been able to grow a 7-figure business, by doing less. So yeah, that would be my top tip, is really the strategy piece.
Yeah. Awesome. Selena, thank you so much. I feel like we could talk for hours and hours, but maybe we'll have to just invite you back on the show later on. And until then, where can people go? You actually have a couple gifts, actually, you had mentioned earlier, to share with people. What are those things exactly?
Yeah, sure. So at the beginning of the podcast, we were talking about things like going to events and connecting with people in person. So I created this guide called The Ultimate Guide to Meeting People at Events. And you can get that at selenasoo.com/event guide. And there's over 24 tips. And, it's a really valuable guide. A lot of people have, printed the guide and brought it to conferences with them, or use that as their conference prep. So something that I encourage you to check out. And then I also have another guide. You can get that at selenasoo.com/SPI. And it's about how I went from 0 to 157K in my first year as a coach. I think that it's really important to see what other people have done, because you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Success leaves clues. And so I really break down what I did in year one. And very early on, I actually launched a mastermind. When I first, launched as a year-long program, it was $24,000. And I had referral partners literally send mastermind clients to me. And these people would enroll in my programs. And so I have how I developed these referral partner relationships, the exact script that I gave them, or the email to forward along to prospects. I share a lot of detail also about my price points, how my program offerings change, and how I price them. So it's a very in-depth 31-page report. So if people want to check that out, they can go to selenasoo.com/SPI.
Awesome. Thank you, Selena. We appreciate you, and all the best of luck, and congrats on all the amazing success.
Thanks, Pat.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Selena Soo. She mentioned a couple links there at the end, some giveaways. So selenasoo.com/event guide, and also selenasoo.com/SPI for how she was able to grow her business so massively fast in a short period of time. So obviously all the links that are mentioned in this episode can be found at the show notes, which are available at smartpassiveincome.com/session253. Those links include links to John Lee Dumas's brand new product, which is live on Kickstarter right now. You could check it out at themasteryjournal.com/Pat. What's cool about this is, just imagine how it would feel to end every day feeling proud of the progress you've made and everything that you've accomplished. Imagine how it would feel to have a plan in place for how you're going to get one step closer to accomplishing the goals and the projects that you've set for yourself for this year. No more struggling with distractions. I have this book in hand myself, and I've gone through it. I love the strategies that he's using to help people with their productivity and focus. And so I highly recommend you check it out. He also incorporates the Pomodoro technique and Parkinson's law to help you get more done than you ever thought possible. This is definitely a book for those who really want to succeed. And so again, one more time, check it out at themasteryjournal.com/Pat. He's got a number of different packages you can get involved with there. And every time he reaches a funding goal, he's writing a check on behalf of the Mastery Journal to support Pencils of Promise. So how can I not support this? This is amazing. themasteryjournal.com/Pat. Also, I want to take a quick moment just to thank you. I don't know if you realize this, but you, the listeners, have made a massive impact on the direction of where Smart Passive Income has gone. As a result of you, I've been interviewing certain guests that you've recommended. As a result of your recommendations, I've been tackling different topics that are of high interest to you. In addition to that, I created a brand new podcast called Ask Pat, which you may have heard of before. And on that show, I answer voicemail questions from you as well. You can actually check that out at askpat.com. But that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for you. Obviously, Ask Pat, there needs to be questions in addition to my answers in order to make that show a success. And I'm so thankful that it's there. And I have you to thank for that. I also have you to thank for pushing me to create some online courses to help you through a number of the different problems and pains that you might be having with your online business, the scaling of it, just even the start and the process of it. Even though there's a lot of great free information here via the podcast, I know this from my own experience as well, courses can be life-changing because you purchase a course and you are just in that mindset of actually doing that thing that course tells you to do. And I have a number of different courses available to you if that's the kind of thing you need in order to actually finally start getting results and taking action. So I know a number of you have already taken action, which is fine. Like, I'm not trying to push these courses on you, but they are there and available for those of you who would much prefer to get that targeted information and the accountability and the hand-holding through those processes. So if you want to check out and see all the courses that are available to you, all you have to do is go to smartpassiveincome.com/courses. That's a page that's going to continually grow over time as well. So keep checking back, smartpassiveincome.com/courses. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you there. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I look forward to next week's episode where we actually don't have any guests on the show. It's just going to be you and me talking about something that I've been working on for quite a long time and sharing the lessons I've learned along the way. It's going to be very revealing, and I look forward to sharing those tidbits with you then. Until then, keep rocking. I appreciate you guys. See you the next show. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Smart Passive Income Podcast at www.smartpassiveincome.com.
Hey there, quick pause here because I have to tell you about a tool that completely transforms the podcasting workflow, Riverside. I get it. I used to juggle multiple platforms just to record one podcast episode. It was exhausting. Zoom for recording, Audacity for editing, and then a bunch of different apps just to create clips and social posts. I've tried other ones as well. They were okay, but they were clunky and super time-consuming. That's where Riverside has massively helped. I can do it all in one place, recording, editing, repurposing, one platform, one streamlined flow. I just log in, record with my guests no matter where they are in the world, and just like that, studio-quality audio and high-resolution video all in one. And get this, even if your Wi-Fi glitches, Riverside records locally on your device so everything sounds and looks crystal clear. But here's my favorite feature, Riverside's AI editing tool. You can remove silences and filler words with just one click, hours saved. With Magic Clips, Riverside also automatically finds the best moments and turns them into ready-to-post videos for YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram, all without the extra editing. So if you're looking to level up your production quality and simplify your workflow, go to smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside and use code SMART to get 1 month free on the Pro plan. That's smartpassiveincome.com/Riverside, promo code SMART. It's built by creators for creators, and I think you're going to love it. More people dream about building their own business and being their own boss rather than retiring early. But a majority of them never even take the first steps to register the business. Why? Because starting a business can feel overwhelming. With legal forms, paperwork, finances, it's a lot. And that's where Taylor Brands comes in. Taylor is a complete business builder designed to make launching your business simple and stress-free. You can register your LLC in just minutes, keeping your personal and business assets separate from day one. And from there, you can get access to everything you need to get off the ground, from legal documents, licenses and permits, invoicing and bookkeeping tools, and even a 100-day business coaching program to help you hit the ground running. You'll also get a free personalized business plan, branding tools, and so much more. And of course, our listeners get an exclusive 35% discount to get started. Just head to taylorbrands.com/SPI. That's TAILORBRANDS.com/SPI. Stop dreaming, start building with Taylor Brands.